Well, of course, inevitably, with all doctors, there is a passing of the torch. So, such was the case for John Pertwee's third Doctor in Planet of the Spiders, which does have a cool 50s B-movie sci-fi title. He had a couple of those. And ends on this one. Yeah, of course, the effects were not great. But for what it is, for the most part, and the ideas of these spiders that would attach themselves to people's backs and take control of them and all that, had, a certain creepiness to it. But it was done at the time that they had, so how else could they have done it to make the spiders look more real and whatnot? I don't know. But for what it was, it doesn't, like a lot of things, Doctor Who is a series that survived on its charm rather than special effects, which for the most part weren't all that great. And other times, good enough, and sometimes I thought not bad at all. And a lot of times, I talk about this with the old Star Trek too, when they would do alien planets on a soundstage. I always thought that was the best way to go because it's an alien world. Who's to say what it looks like? So when he goes to Metebelis 3 in these scenes, he's clearly on a blue screen, but so what? But anyway, when they finally get to I guess really the worst part, oddly enough, is when they get to the scene where you see the council of spiders or what have you, and it's just a bunch of little spider puppets on tables, and the overall design of the room and whatnot looked, kind of space age and stuff, but then it's just the queen spider sitting on a I don't know, a towel or whatever. But there again, there's a kind of silliness to it that tends to work, where the spiders are jumping up and down and they're kind of laughing about things and stuff. So, it works. The ultimate scene of the great one spider, which is this ginormous spider. Again, there's some blue screen there too, but it doesn't bother me that much. I guess maybe they could have made it like turn down the light and make it darker, and it might have worked better. But it's fine. So, but that gets, I've seen other people talk about it. It gets a lot of criticism for it and whatnot, but I think it's a bit much. It's just that for the final bow for John Pertwee, they probably would have wanted a more serious undertaking or something along those lines for his final story. But a lot of times, doctors, they don't get a good final one. Not everybody gets a War Games, which was excellent, and a great send-off for Troughton. This doesn't really measure up to that for Pertwee, but, and that's the thing. Had it just been another run-of-the-mill episode and it wasn't his last one, people probably wouldn't be as hard on it as they are, But anyway, this wasn't meant to be his last episode. The original planned, the final story for that season was supposed to be called The Final Game, and it would be his final confrontation with the Master. Unfortunately, Roger Delgado had died in a car crash while taping a series in Turkey, I believe. And his death was also a big part of why Pertwee decided to leave the role. He was also, Joe Grant, Katie Manning, Joe Manning had left, and he was like, well, maybe it's time for me to move on too. And then this happens, and also the fears of typecasting, which too late, he was typecast, so he ran up against that in later years. But, you gotta move. But at this point, he was the longest serving doctor. Hartnell, who apparently didn't really want to leave, but had to because of health problems. And then Troughton, he's the one who kind of set the standard for the 3-season Doctor, But Pertwee, he had done 5. He obviously enjoyed the role, but he was aware of the consequences of typecasting and whatnot. So maybe he should have done just 3. I don't know. But it's a tough thing to break away from when you get in one of these iconic roles in a franchise, if you will, that has a lot more power to it than just to show that even if a show is good, you won't necessarily be typecast for whatever role you're playing in it. But anyway, something like this, yeah, it's hard to escape. A final confrontation with the Master would have been a great send-off, but then again, he might not have left the role. He might have done another season, but with the sad passing of Delgado, yeah, that was another big push for him to go ahead and move on. And so you get Planet of the Spiders, and something that probably could have been revisited at some date, because in New Who we had arachnids in the UK, and are they going? No connection whatsoever, even though the spiders in the story are originally from Earth, and that's the interesting thing about this, where you got this monastery, it's mysterious, and you got these guys seemingly wanting to conjure a demon or something. I don't know what and they end up conjuring a spider. But there's this link there, and it's connected with the blue crystal, which is something they'd been laying groundwork throughout Pertwee's series. So I'm kind of wondering, maybe would the blue crystal have had something to do with the final game? I don't know, because Planet of the Spiders is something they had to whip up for this. And that it pays off and everything, and then the Doctor kind of inadvertently set things in motion by taking that crystal. But the interesting thing here is where they create this link between Metebelis 3 and the Earth, and it's also a link not through space but through time, as the point in time for Metebelis 3 is in the distant future, where you've got these humans from the future who crashed on that planet, and along with some spiders who got mutated by the crystals, and well, here you go. And then the humans get enslaved by them and all this sort of thing. And meanwhile, the connection of that crystal, and who knows what point in time, I guess at an earlier date or what have you, when the Doctor went to the planet and got the crystal. And it's briefly shown where he's being chased by something horrific and all that, but he says he never saw any of the spiders at the time, so it hadn't happened yet, I assume. But he's got the crystal, and the Great One, the giant spider, has been searching for that crystal to complete a lattice of the crystals that would empower her to control the universe and all this sort of stuff. So she's looking for it, and her underling spiders are looking for it, and they sense it across time and space to Earth, where the Doctor is with Unit and all that. So there you go. That's the whole plot, if you will, for why the spiders are chasing this. And then meanwhile, the spider that comes through takes over the leader, or I guess more or less the leader of the guys at the monastery, and ends up wanting to plot against her own queen. So there's that going on too. Everybody's backstabbing and all this stuff. Plus, you get, which I seem to recall that this was something Pertwee had requested, a car chase scene. Then a boat chasing scene. Or no, car chase, aerial chase, and then a boat chase. So by land, by air, by sea, I will pursue you. So it gets really crazy. And of course, not just Bessie, but the Doctor also has yet another vehicle, a space car of some sort that flies. So there you go. So he's chasing this guy who steals the crystal and goes all over the place. And then finally, the Doctor's about to get the drop on the guy, and the spider, oh, you know what? I can teleport. So the whole chase was, what a stupid spider. And so he teleports back to the monastery, and he's got the crystal, and he can teleport over to Metebelis 3 and all that. So, yeah. But, I like the chase scene for what it is. It's fine. But still, yeah, the spider was kind of stupid. And again, the spider's stupid because the guy, Lupton was his name, he kind of rebels against the spider, and the spider starts giving him a horrific pain. and yeah, you better yield, buddy. And then, but as a result of doing this, since they're connected, he realizes he can do it to her. So he does, and the spider's like, all right, let's come to an understanding here. So, not the sharpest knife in the drawer for spider agents or whatever. But yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Meanwhile, you had a simpleton, Tommy was his name or whatever. He comes into contact with the crystal because he likes pretty things, trinkets, jewelry, Sarah Jane Smith, all that stuff. And so he gets the crystal, and it glows in his face and transforms him into, a regular IQ, and suddenly he could read, and he's like, hey, what the hell? What's going on here? So that's good. The bad thing is, initially, at the beginning, we see the doctor, the doctor and the brigadier attend a magician's show or what have you, and the doctor discovers that the magician is not a magician, but is actually a real clairvoyant. And the guy's all embarrassed. Oh, no, you've discovered my mutant powers. And the doctor says, yeah, but I want to help out and explore it. So then he introduces him to the crystal. The guy, I don't know, gets a high from it and dies. It's terrible. I mean, and the doctor's like, whoops, oh, well, what are you going to do? And it's a thing that the doctor suggests that there's probably several humans who have special abilities and powers, and we might want to revisit this at some point. I don't know, maybe but whatever. But that sets off the chain of events for this clairvoyant to link with the blue crystal, sends off the signals where the spiders can contact it and all that. The other great aspect of this is that we're introduced to a Time Lord that the doctor had mentioned, and that being Campo. And we get this interesting thing of the Campo is a far more powerful Time Lord than the doctor is, and that he was able to project his future self into a separate entity here, which seemed to be his assistant, who's supposed to be an Asian man, but clearly isn't. Yeah, well, what are you going to do? And ultimately, his real name, Campo, he regenerates after being attacked by the spiders and becomes the assistant who disappears and reappears, as him. And so that's his new body, which sets up somewhat, I'm guessing, what happened at the end of Tom Baker's run with the Watcher being a projection of his future self in a much atrophied condition due to what was going on in that story. So I guess it's kind of a bookend for how that happens. But anyway, that's what he can do. Plus, he doesn't need a TARDIS. He just teleports himself. So pretty powerful Time Lord there. But interestingly enough, yet another who, before you got his name, Time Lords just loved titles, so he was just the Hermit. You have the Doctor, you have the Master, you have the Monk. And so they just like those things. So he's an old mentor of the Doctor. He had mentioned him, and there he is. You meet him, and he explains to the Doctor what he's got to do. He's got to return the crystal. So he does. The problem is, when you come in the presence of the Great One, the radiation surrounding that area is so powerful it destroys every cell in the Doctor's body. The Doctor returns the crystal, but he warns the Great One that she wouldn't be able to handle its power. And of course, he's right. She doesn't listen, and the whole mountain blows up and everything. And the Doctor struggles to get back to the TARDIS and leaves, and then doesn't return home until 3 weeks later. And he shows up and collapses before the Brigadier and Sarah. And then the Hermit, Campo, appears and has to give the Doctor a little push to regenerate, and so he does. And there's Tom Baker, and we go to credits. So, so Pertwee had been the Doctor for quite a while at this time, and every time you lose a Doctor, there's all this kind of fear. Oh no, you're used to that one, and you're gonna miss him. And could this be the beginning of the end of the series? And you just don't know. And boy. Had no idea something special had just happened. You're in for quite the treat, and a much longer one. So really, the stars were aligned, the planets were aligned, you know. An incredible tour de force was on its way. Unlike today, oh God, so bad. So Tom Baker is my doctor. Whenever a Doctor Who fan says, "Who's your doctor?" you know. But Pertwee, I have a lot of respect for, and I enjoyed his performance. And of course, like I said, I imagine it was a sad thing at the time, you know, when a doctor leaves and all that. But not to fear, it was in good hands and all that. So the interesting thing about it is I didn't know at the time was that they had to shoot that scene in 2 separate rooms, and I guess they had to tape it live. So Baker's in one room, you know, dressed in Pertwee's costume, laying on the floor. Pertwee's in the other room. And so they do the fade as they're taping it, and that's apparently how that happened. All it is a shot of their faces, you know. And it's the one time where you see the regeneration happen like that, where it's just the one face fades into the other. Other times it's kind of obscured. Even with Hartnell and the Troughton, there is that a hint of a glow. Like you get New Who, they always glow and everything, which I think is a bit much. I don't really like how they do that. Then there's then of course the weird thing with the Watcher and all that for Baker and to Davidson. And then Davidson, when there's a bit of a glow there. I mean, granted it's him remembering his companions and everything, and then it all kind of fades and bam, suddenly there's Colin Baker. And then of course, well, Colin Baker wasn't really there, but when the Sixth Doctor regenerates, his face is glowing. So each time was very different. So, you know, there was never really any standard thing. Of course, Troughton into Pertwee, you never saw it. I know there's all these theories that, now we got to say Joe Martin was in between the two. I guess it's better than having her be a pre-Hartnell Doctor, but still, that's a bit of a stretch. So, anyway, there you go. There's all these little interesting tidbits, and the Fourth Doctor has arrived at this point. And we'll get into that shortly. Oh, yeah, we will. That's going to be a long haul. Because Tom Baker really enjoyed the role, didn't he? Sadly, Baker and Pertwee did not get along. Primarily, that's more on Baker's fault. But in later years, he does regret this. He regrets a lot of things, but that's what happens. But Pertwee put quite his stamp on Doctor Who. He's the James Bond Doctor. He would fight and have action scenes and all this sort of stuff, which is rare. You don't really see much of that in the rest of Doctor Who, and I think that was a one and done deal. Even though, technically speaking, all those doctors should know his, Venusian karate or judo, but they just choose not to use it. So, anyway, a good run, and also kind of established the look and feel. Whereas Hartnell and Troughton's outfits were pretty similar. It's just Troughton was a bit of a kind of a slob with the outfit because he's the cosmic hobo, you know. And then Pertwee comes in and it changes things up a bit. And initially, I mean, he is kind of in black and with a white shirt, but then he changes it up and he introduces he had a style to his look that he liked. That's the type of clothes he liked, but he didn't wear the same damn thing every episode. He could change clothes, like regular people do. Baker will be the same. He certainly, the scarf is the signature, but the clothes he actually wears changes all the time. So it's kind of odd. Only in the 80s did they get to the costume phase, really, of the outfit, which was a mistake. And for whatever reason, the current New Who with Jodie, she's not allowed to change her clothes. She has to wear that same, except for the shirt. Sometimes it's a dark blue, sometimes it's a pink, and that's it, but it's stupid, especially when her companions, fam, they'll change clothes to blend in with the period they're in when they're in the distant past. But the Doctor doesn't. Spyfall, one time she does, was the black coat and all that. I don't know what's the thinking that, But I guess because, well, branding for what? You can't sell any toys for the show. Anyway, I'm letting that invade this. So Planet of the Spiders, probably not the best send-off for Pertwee's Doctor, but it is what it is. And I liked it okay. So the end of an era. The Pertwee era is actually in a way not quite over, as it kind of lingers for a little bit with the whole unit aspect of it, but not for much longer. And then we're off to the races to some great adventures with the Fourth Doctor. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you, most notably my comic book, Night Night, over at IndiePlanet.com. You can also catch the Mr. Nailsin Show over at RadioMysteries.com, and check out my channels also on BitChute. That's right, the Mr. Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.